Pewnie część z Was słyszała już o takiej apce, jeżeli nie, to zaraz się dowiecie o niej czegoś więcej. Dołączył do nas również przedstawiciel ciekawego płynu, czy funky fluid. Oczywiście jest on też na scenie nasz CEO i jestem ja, ubrany cały na żółto. Hi guys, it's very heavy here in Poland. Właśnie, ten nasz panelik będzie w języku angielskim prowadzony, nie mamy tłumaczenia symultanicznego kabinowego żadnego, więc musicie się postarać, jeżeli dużo nie wypiliście, to na pewno zrozumiecie to, o czym będziemy rozmawiać. Alright, everything is set. Let's open our cans and let's pour this fantastic beers that we have on stage. Na scenie mamy dwa browarki, część z Was na pewno już te browarki próbowała. To są browarki od Funky Fluid, które zostały stworzone specjalnie na potrzeby tejże właśnie 16. edycji Warszawskiego Festiwalu Piwa. Piwko jest rozlewane także dla naszych gości z krajów niskich, Johannesa i Toma. No bo właśnie Johannes i Tom reprezentują tutaj u nas Untappd. Dzięki wielkie. No dobrze, w porządku. Myślę, że czas zacząć. Without further ado, guys, what is Untappd?
Yeah. Hi guys. Untappd is, I think, world's largest beer app. We have 11 million users worldwide, of which half in Europe. And of that, 40,000 in Poland.
40,000?
40,000. And 40,000 that really check in, and approximately 70,000 that really have the app on their phone. So, Untappd is part of a bigger company called Nextglass. We make brewery management software, we make marketplace software, etc., etc. So, also owner of Beer Advocate. We are not owned by InBev. We are not owned by InBev, to be very clear. We are an independent company, and we just want to bring beer to the world.
How did you really come up with the idea of this app?
In 2010, there were two developers drinking a beer, and they saw TripAdvisor, they saw all kinds of rating apps coming up, and they thought, hey, we should develop something like that. And they were drinking a beer, and they thought, hey, let's just write a website on beer and checking in beer. So it started there, and after a few months, they had 2 million visitors on their website. And my CEO, Trey Smith, he saw that. He was from banking. He said, let's invest in that. Let's build an app. So in 2014, the app was born. And, I think the rest is history.
The rest is history. Which beer are we drinking now? Which one is that? Is it Szarlotka or the Warsaw one?
Tylko pytanko, czy mam mówić po polsku, czy może po angielsku też, żeby na
Po angielsku.
Okay, so at the first we have our New England IPA, brew only with Polish hops, because the idea for this one was, to show what Polish hops can really do in a New England IPA. That's, we don't have anything to shame about our hops. So we got some hops just from Paweł Piłat, like the guy who is Caesar of the Polish hops. And I think that we achieved something that we assumed at the beginning. So there were like a lot of aromas, a lot of fruits, a lot of different notes from different hops, because there were 5 different hops. I don't remember what exactly was those 5 hops, but you can check it on our website or on Untappd, because there are info about it. And we are really, really glad that this beer could be also like the official beer of the Warsaw Beer Festival, and we are really proud of it.
Pozdrawiamy cesarza Mokry Krzyszek. How is this beer, if you were to judge, how is this beer different from similar beers you would discover, I don't know, in the Netherlands or in Belgium?
I think it's quite similar actually, by taste of the popular New England IPAs, which currently are a bit sweet, fresh, flowery, fruity. This beer has it all as well. So I think normally the New England IPAs are more made with the American popular hops like Simcoe, Citra, things like that. But the Polish hops gives the same experience, and I think it's a really good beer. And an Untappd rating is great as well. So that's what Funky Fluid wants as well, I think. So the public thinks it's good. So I think it's quite similar to the standard New England IPA.
Thanks. A couple of days ago, when we were exchanging correspondence via email, I asked you a question whether there are differences, maybe there are no differences, between the way that people in Poland evaluate beers and people elsewhere. When you are analyzing the data at Untappd, do you see such national differences, maybe some trends? Can we speak of, I don't know, some fashion, how to evaluate beer, or is it more of a global phenomenon now, how people assess certain things?
Well, first of all, I think if you look at the check-ins, then you see that the 40,000 active users on Untappd from Poland are drinking far more or checking in far more than the average in the world. So,
But do you mean different beers? or
beers.
different
beers. So the 40,000 check in 1 million times a year. And so 1 million consumption moments every year are being registered on the app by Polish users. And if you look at the ratings, then you see that the average rating is lower than average. And that probably has to do with the modesty of the Polish people. I don't know. But if you look at the Americans or the Canadians or Chinese, Russian, Australian, and you see that average ratings are trending towards the 4. And on average, the Polish people give their beers a 3.59. Quite similar to the Dutch, actually. So
I don't know if is it accurate if you look at the ratings, but I get like this opinion that in several countries people are like hyping their local beers, and in Poland they are judging in a very harsh way, like, okay, it's a good beer, but nothing special. Okay, 3.25. And for example, in the States, when people are judging some local beers from local breweries, it's like, a very good beer, 4.5. And I don't know if you can check it on some ratings.
no, I think that especially from the brewer side, and yesterday we were here as well, and we had several conversations with the brewer Warszawski, with Pinta, with several brewers that said, with Kingpin upstairs, I said, yeah, but the score is you really fuck up my beer, and the score is determining whether a procurement officer is buying my beer or not. The score is not important, actually. There's far more details behind the score. And yes, the Polish people are very harsh. They say, okay, this is a great beer, 3.2. The Americans say, this is a great beer, 4.5. That's the difference. And then the buyers, they tend to buy the American beer over the Polish beer because it's rated too modest. But behind the data, in the comments and in the distribution points, and in there's so much more richness behind the data, which is far more important for brewers than just that number. So I would really encourage brewers to look deeper and to look behind the number, because I hate the rating as well. Because a lager or a non-alcoholic can be very good, but score 2.9. Yeah. So I think that's a lot of people tie it to the score, and And I think that it's important, and we will work on that in the app. That we say, okay, it's a 2.9, but it's in the top 10% of all non-alcoholic beers. I think that will differentiate and give nuance to the score. But far more important, for instance, when we introduced the beer, we saw that the first check-ins from the Netherlands, for instance, came a month later after introduction. So as a brewer, I would think, okay, there's something wrong with my distribution. I have a fresh IPA. I want to introduce it fast. Okay, how come it's only a month later in the Dutch market? And then if you look at the check-ins, these beers now already have, I don't know what the exact number of sales is and producement, but they have 500 check-ins, which is, I think, pretty good for a introduction beer spread out over Europe. And
So maybe a question to you, Paweł. You've been organizing this festival for almost a decade. From your perspective, are Polish beer drinkers really strict, harsh, as our colleagues are saying? Or, I don't know, maybe are we as a nation modest in the way we evaluate beer? Do you think, do we think less of our beers in comparison to, I don't know, Dutch beers or American?
Actually, this is a very interesting question because I recently changed my mind about that. I do think that we're in Poland, we have a self-stereotype that we tend to check in or rate everything rather harshly. And we used to complain all the time. We used to be not happy about our lives and about our reality. But I'm not sure if you're on, not with the statistics from Untappd, but from the statistic of people describing their happiness in life or their level of their enjoyment of everyday safetiness of being in the European Union, being in Poland, especially nowadays. And in the recent few years, this has changed enormously. We're not longer a complaining nation. We are kind of getting proud of ourselves. And we were torn apart between being modest and being shy and aiming for a success.
Shy?
Watching, I guess so. Yeah, I have this feeling. And people, this is also the reason why we were supporting Polish sportsmen so much. Because, when someone from Poland achieves someone, it's a national hero already. Because we feel worse than the others. I think this is the truth. But also this is changing. And I had this view that was supported by many brewers that they did believe that people in Poland rate their beers in a worse way or give lower scores than the others. And this is partly true because there are countries, including America, for example, but some of the others that rate higher. But still, there are many countries in which people rate lower. And a good example is Finland, when the people are really criticizing their own beers a lot, and not only their own. So, according to our blogger that likes to play with the Untappd data, Rami, he actually criticized me a lot for my personal opinions. I'm not a good social media user, and I use it not as a tool. I don't treat it seriously. So sometimes I post stupid things on it, and he treated me rather seriously, criticizing what I said, that Polish people are giving lower marks and so. And I thought, okay, but after a deep discussion with him, it turns out, but we do not have enough data. That was the reason for us to start this experiment with putting the same beer in so many countries on the same spot, because I do believe that not only the quality of the beer differs during the time, not only people are changing the beer in a different way, considering it like it's a foreign beer, it's a beer from their favorite brewery on spot, but also the climate is important, and for me, sometimes the most important thing. Some of the beers I loved on spot, and when I take them home, it doesn't taste like it used to be. And this is also the reason why we want you to try this beer on the third floor on the Funky Fluid stand, because we want to see how you will rate those beers, because we did believe that the good atmosphere around it at the Warsaw Beer Festival will also be part of your experience that you were put in the Untappd.
And to be honest, I think that it will be a good thing to compare the results that we have after our experiment with some data gained by one of Polish Untappd users with the most check-ins in Poland, Rami. He's collecting some data about how people are, making scores on Untappd in several countries, and there are like some European countries that are lowering scores, and some other ones that are just, checking with some low notes. Yeah.
I just wanted to tell you that maybe you're wondering why those people we're mentioning, the Untappd users, are not here. They're upstairs doing a panel of lambics and putting it on tap. So that is the reason.
Is it okay if I ask a question to our audience? Yeah? Guys, do you think that you are harsh when you check in your beers on Untappd? Are you harsh? Yeah, you are harsh? Why are you harsh?
There's no something there. No, I like.
You like the beer, but you hate it, and that is why you give a low score.
I just don't give fives for everything. That's it.
I made him give 5 stars today for his favorite beer. He forgot to do it. It was XY, the sour from those guys from Pinta. But he usually just complains about everything. That's his nature.
So even if you like something, you are going to complain and give it. Okay, that is very interesting. Maybe that is the Polish nature. I don't know. Guys, anyone else would like to chime in? Are you harsh when you evaluate beers?
Maybe when I'm judging, because I am a beer judging, but I don't use it on top of it just because of this. Because beer geeks use it to put only high average to beer with a lot of stuff inside, and not to classic beer good.
Where are you from?
Brazil. Yeah.
So you're from Brazil, and if you were to say, as a Brazilian, do you always judge harshly, or do you sometimes allow yourself to give higher scores?
I think in Brazil is the same. Here in Polish, people use it to put less for the Brazilian beer than North American beer.
Actually, if I can say something about a Brazilian brewery, because I remember that before the Spartacus brewery came to Europe with their Imperial Stouts, people were like, oh my God, it's a brewery from Brazil with such a high notes. Oh my God, the locals are just hyping it. And then they came to Europe and people were like, oh my God, what a great beers they are making. So it's not always like the people are hyping the local beers, but sometimes they think they know what is good. But sometimes it's in another way.
Hey, guys, I hope you will not get offended, but I used to use Untappd a bit more back in the day, but I got a bit discouraged precisely by those low scores, because I check a beer on Untappd and it has got a score of 3.75. I buy it, I try it, and it's fucking amazing. It's tremendous. That's very, very extremely weird. So so thank you to our audience for chiming in, but I would actually expect people to be more generous in the way that they evaluate the beer, especially if they like it, because beer is supposed to give us pleasure, and sometimes you look at the scores and you are not sure whether they actually liked those beers or not. Eh, Is it just my impression, or does the data confirm it?
No, I think that what Pavel said, it's beer is about emotion, about the setting. Drinking a beer here or drinking a beer at home in your garage at -6 degrees, it's a big difference. You would rate the garage beer maybe a 2, and here it's a 4.5. So I think that beer is about emotion. That's why brewers spend a lot of time creating great names. The package is very important. The can is very important. The storytelling. To give you an example, last year we did an experiment with a German brewer, where they had a 4-rated beer of 2.4. They put it in a new bottle based on our data, in a new bottle with a new etiquette, with a new name. It scored a point higher, 1 full point higher, just because it was presented better, the name was better, it was positioned better. So it's not always about the taste. There are a lot of components about the beer.
So it's not only this sensory experience that we love, but it's also the visual aspect.
But put a blindfold on and taste 3 kinds of pilsners, 3 famous ones, 3 famous pilsners. You won't guess one right.
That is true.
My intuition is that we rate the beer basing on the information that we do have. And the emotions carry the information better than the air carries the smell. So the smell is just a part of the taste, is just a part of what we're rating. And this is the reason why the craft beers are rated so high sometimes, and some of them are rated so bad, because we have some deep emotions about that. And I think this is good, and this is unique.
Okay, so if I may, just one question. So because you say knowledge, if I know that there is Riwaka hops in a beer that I've just ordered, and I love Riwaka, I am going to give it a better score than in case I didn't know that it had Riwaka. Is that what you're saying?
No, it depends on your emotion. You can have, you can be a Owaka specialist. So you can say, oh, this is not it. This is not the perfect aroma. So it also, you can have different emotions when you read or get the same information.
Okay, so many levels. You wanted to say something, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Like there is like another, I think, interesting case with some experiment beers. Like, for example, we recently put on the market a peated sour with addition of lemon and ginger, and we call it penicillin because it was inspired by this drink. And the response that we get, like from the notes, was totally different, because there were like a huge group of Untappd users that were scoring this like 4.5 because, oh my god, it's so amazing, it's something that we never drank before. And there were like an other group like 0.25, oh my god, it's peated, I don't like peated beers, I don't expect it to be peated. Come on, what the hell? You're ordering a peated beer and you're scoring this 0.25 because you don't like peated beers? What the fuck, come on.
Guys, a question that I would love to ask you as foreigners, and as guys from a country that has a rich tradition concerning beers, a tradition that never died, unlike in Poland, because we had our Polish original traditional beer styles, which unfortunately, due to different unfortunate circumstances, disappeared, like grodziskie or jopejskie, and there is a renaissance, obviously, nowadays of those beers, but the tradition that we used to have many centuries ago disappeared. It concerns both beer and mead, but in Belgium, in the Netherlands, in Germany, you still have those 100-year-long traditions of traditional beer styles, and there are still hundreds and thousands of people who love those beers. Is it different from your point of view? You're Dutch, right? You're Dutch. Okay, so you're Dutch, and I think it's the same also for Flemish people. You love your doubles, you love your blondes, and sometimes you just don't feel the need to try those new wave experimental beers, or is it just my impression as a person from Central Europe?
Yeah, I don't know if having Heineken as your main brewer is.
I don't mean Heineken. I was thinking about, I don't know, Westermalle or Chimay, beer like that.
True. I think we have a lot of tradition in that. Of course, we have a lot of macro brewers as well. But what you see, especially in the Netherlands, is that we are very open to craft. We're pretty much exploring and creating new beers. When I used to work at Krols, the brewer, and when I started there in 2010, I think 0.1% of all volume in the Netherlands was craft or specialty beers, and now we're talking 13 years ago. Now it's almost 11%. So
It's 10 times as much.
more.
Even more, yeah.
Yeah. So it's exploding, and what we see is that all Dutch brewers are finding ways. Heineken is buying a few craft brewers. Krols is buying craft brewers. Everyone is buying craft brewers. But in Germany, all big brewers are sitting still. So what you see is that from the check-ins, especially the Dutch, the Polish, the Austrian, the Belgian craft brewers are growing very aggressive in Germany. So it also has to do with the population. Are you open to change or not? And I think that is really something that you see in the Netherlands, but I also think that you see that in Poland, that Poland is a very adaptive country on digital. If you look at the whole city, it's digital from A to Z, and I think the Netherlands is the same. Germany is very traditional, and you see that craft adoption is very hand in hand with digital. So so that's what I see in the development of crafts in relationship to traditions.
Going back to giving, we will have a question and answer session right after. So don't forget your question, because I will go back to you. I'm sure she won't forget his question. Anyway, guys, I mean, we are talking about Untappd. I mean, like you said, it's the biggest beer rating app in the world. Are those scores at all important for brewers? Not just for consumers, but for brewers. Is it possible to observe some sort of a trend or a fashion, or, something maybe not long-lasting, but a very short, a fad that lasts a season and then it disappears? Can we speak of something like that?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people underestimate what Untappd means if you want to have some feedback from the customers, because for the breweries, it's just a feedback from the customers. You see what beers are, warmly welcomed by customers, what the customers would like to, to have, because they're rating it a little bit lower than another. And it, I think, sometimes inflict our plans for another beers that we want to make in the future. If we are seeing, just by the scores on Untappd, that some of for our experimental beers or some new series are really warmly welcomed by the customers, we want to develop it. And if we are seeing that something didn't work at all, we think that, okay, so maybe this wasn't the best idea to brew the beer like this, So let's don't make a similar beers. Let's focus. Let's focus on something else. And I think that Untappd is a very, very good thing for breweries to, if you are looking at this course, to plan the future, the plan to brew a good beers, and if someone doesn't take Untappd seriously, well, it's their thing.
Is it okay if we open the next can? Oh, yeah, it is already
Oh,
open.
actually, we already opened it.
Yeah, okay, let's now try the Szarlotka. Oh, I was the... what a shame.
Yeah, just some leftovers, but still very.
I wasn't looking and then you open it and pour it.
And just to say a few words about this beer, because I think that our most famous beer series is Gelato. People all over the Europe are loving this beers, so we want to make a try on typical Polish cake called Szarlotka. This is actually the first gelato beer with a Polish name, and we just get
That is true.
yeah, and we just have some apple juice from Polish apples, and we just add a little bit of cinnamon, and I think that it's very, very simple, and it's extremely tasty. To be honest, it's one of my favorite gelatos, like for this year's gelato that we make. It's really, really tasty for me.
Tom, Johannes, you as people who work at Untappd, do you see like some real national differences in terms of consumption of different beer styles? Can we speak of a fashion in, I don't know, in Italy for a certain beer style, or in Australia, or in the USA? Is it possible to say something like that? Or has craft beer become so global that it's almost always pastry sours and hazy IPAs?
No, I think that the craft industry has developed. I think that if you look 10 years back, then the US was the country where everything happened. That it started there. So new development was done there, and then 4 or 5 years later it would go to Europe, and then but now that whole window of taking it over is gone, because the Polish are developing new beers, and to your point, how is the data, so the check-in being used? We have 1.3 billion check-ins now in our database. So brewers are using it more and more to see, okay, what's trending, and to see, okay, it's a milkshake IPA, but should it taste like strawberry or like raspberry? And based on that, they are developing their beers, put it into market, and then see during distribution what the scores are. And we see brewers changing recipe because of feedback. And feedback is very important for brewers. Next to that, what you also see, and we now have 500 check-ins on these beers, but instantly you from sales have a view on, okay, those 500 beers are being purchased where? So you know the distribution. That's something you never knew. You always knew, okay, I give it to that distributor, but you never know in which bar or restaurant it was being purchased. So the data has become very important for craft brewers, but also for the bigger brewers to understand the market and to better service the customers.
So basically you are in a way able to predict what is going to be in fashion in, I don't know, half a year? I'm sorry, in half a year? Can we say that?
Yeah, I think you can say that. Yeah, I think Heineken 0.0, and it's a very boring example. It's not craft. It's but Heineken 0.0, 6 years ago we already saw it in Vietnam, being produced, being tested in market. being learned from the data and now being executed since 2 or 3 years in Europe and the rest of the world. So it's really a sort of laboratory to test and to learn from and then change to get the best product for the market.
Do you guys use AI to manage this amount of data?
No, we don't. And that's not because we don't embrace AI, but because AI is as smart as you make it. And it doesn't have our data. So the moment we start putting our data into AI, then we don't have a business case anymore.
Pavel, how much time do we have left? You don't know. Because that's what I want to do. The Q&A session. Is it okay if we start the Q&A session now? Is it okay? You don't know. Okay, I hope we still have time. And I remember... Okay, so let's check it. But I think we still do have time. Okay, let's ask the question anyway.
Hello. So, going back to an earlier point, which is about the Dutch brewers buying the small craft brewers, I would also like to know from Untappd. I think Untappd has a much more a commercial responsibility to other brewers. So, for example, a small craft brewer in Amsterdam that gets bought by Heineken, I see online straight away that everyone hates them, that the beer geeks dislike them. Does Untappd see that suddenly trend when a small craft brewer gets bought by Heineken, for example? They suddenly become less popular. And is that something that Untappd could use to promote craft beer in a way, or to stop big brewers trying to overrule small craft breweries?
Yeah, I think it's a very good example. I think you're talking about het IJ in Amsterdam. Big brewers buying small brewers with an exciting portfolio. You saw the same in the US with Goose Island, bought by InBev. The moment it was bought, Goose Island was gone. And that was a trend for years and years and years because financing was good, interest rates were low, so brewers were buying. What you're seeing right now is that brewers are losing, and that the craft brewers are being sold back again to the original owners. And I think that's a good development, because the moment it gets into the consolidated arms, then it doesn't come good to the creativity and the quality of the products. Because if you have Funky Fluid, for instance, they have passion, they have creativity in their products, but the moment AB InBev buys it and the production goes to Leuven, then... So I think that it's good that the users of Untappd are putting their mark on, okay, you shouldn't do that.
We are running out of time, so one more question, one last question, and after that, let's come closer to me. After this question, you will have to approach our guests in person.
All right. Hello, guys. Just one question. There are many breweries around the world and in Europe, like cooperating with each other every year. But what do you think about cooperating with the foreign creative agencies about the packaging? It's not very. It's very not known topic, and what the breweries are afraid of, that the agencies or the creative designers won't understand the mentality of the people or the society or the nature of the country.
Then I'll give this.
I don't have any opinion on that.
There are not many cooperations between foreign breweries and the creative packaging agencies. And what's it all about?
Creative labels and stuff like that. Basically,
Okay, maybe it'll be time to resolve that in a second. Yeah.
This question might be a bit too difficult or too complex to answer at this, at this short panel. I guess it would need involving people also from the creative world. I guess that's just my opinion. Okay, guys, because we are out of time, I've just heard. Thank you so much, Johannes, Piotr, Tom, Johannes, Tom, Piotr, and thank you, Paweł, obviously. Thank you guys for joining us for this short session. I know there is something else coming up right now.
Yeah,
No idea what.
Arthur will come to the stage.
Right, of course.
And I just wanted to tell those poor writers like you and you, man, I hope you don't teach children. Imagine that, like, very good, failed. Or very good, but I'm waiting for a smarter child. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Przemek, I've just seen that. T, you were showing Arthur. The stage is yours. Let's give it up once again. Thank you so much, and enjoy the evening. Enjoy the good beer and enjoy the next session. It's gonna be fucking amazing.